Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Hsieh, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the field.
Every product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son.
60% of all toys last year were sold on Amazon, which is incredible.
Be passionate about it because it's a road, it's a journey.
Like when you have an idea that you think is like gonna somewhat like change the world, make things better, I'd say go for it.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Today's webinar, it is a very hot topic right now, is really the tariff. I think there's a lot of that's happening on the news every single day when I turn on. And it's also a very fluid situation because it's creating a lot of uncertainties, anxiety for myself as well. Actually, all of our product for my own toy brand is manufactured in China. So we definitely are seeing a lot of the pressure and effect firsthand ourselves here at Toy Launch with all the different brands that we manage. And it's over 80% of all manufacturing for toys and game industry is happening in China. It is really hard to replace the manufacturing overnight, especially for some of the toys that require quite a bit of labor. So for today's webinar, the topic is going to be how can we tariff-proof our business and some of the potential strategy you can consider to implement for your business to further reduce costs and still stay profitable despite of the kind of the administration clash that we are facing. And we are just getting caught as a small business owner in between the giant countries in their trade war. So I personally can really understand a lot of the pressure that a lot of people in our industry is facing. Before we start the training, I want to give an overview. And also, I think it's very important for all of us to remain calm and not make any rush decision despite of some of the uncertainty. Besides some of the strategy, I will also sharing some of the things that we're testing and we're thinking about implementing within our own brand and some of our clients' brand to help them to overcome this situation together. Today's agenda, obviously, we'll be talking about different strategy and different things you can consider. And I will also spend time, few of the strategy talking about Amazon program you can also consider, especially for those of you that's already selling on Amazon or consider selling on Amazon. By utilizing some of the Amazon program, it might help you to reduce some of your operation overhead and also streamline your operations as well. I'm also going to talk about a few potential planning strategy you can also consider within your current business to see how you can reduce the cost and still import the product from Amazon. And we are also offering a free tariff impact assessment. So for those of you that's attending or watching the replay that would like us to do a tariff impact assessment for your brand, feel free to reach out. We'll be more than willing to help everyone within the industry to see what are some of the strategies you can implement for your current situation individually. And that's something we're also offering as a free services to talk to different brands and understand the different strategy and different like alternative that you can consider. So that being said, first of all, for those of you that didn't know me, let me quickly reintroduce myself. So my name is Hsieh. I'm the founder of Lucky Kid. That is our in-house toys brand, which we design toys for kids with special needs. We design sensory toys, fidget toys, and weighted toys. And like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of today's training, 100% of our manufacturing is being done in China. We have 3 different factories in China that we use with our own brand. And obviously, we are also being affected greatly with the tariff situation. We have a production that's just recently finished that we need to put on hold before they ship it out from China. We're trying to evaluating the current situation, negotiating with our manufacturer partner and figure out how can we still get the product over here in US and still provide it to our customer. And besides our in-house toy brand, we also run a digital marketing company called Toy Launch, which we specialize in doing digital marketing for toys and game brands. We currently manage about 25 different toys and game companies with their digital marketing effort, both on Amazon and off Amazon, to really help them to grow. And that's why a lot of the client we're talking to is all facing the similar together as an industry. And hopefully in today's webinar, some of the strategy I'll be mentioning is going to help everyone to come up with some alternative with current situation. And besides the in-house toy brand, the marketing companies, I also host a podcast called Toy Business Unboxed, which I interview various different companies within the toys and game industry and share what is working and not working. Feel free to check out our podcast on any podcast platform. Just search for Toy Business Unboxing. You can also find our podcast and our additional information on that as well. And we also run a small charity foundation here in the Phoenix area called Sensory Inclusive Classroom Foundation, which we donate some of the toys and games to the local churches and local school, etc. And how it started for me, really briefly, is just I started and got into the toys and game industry because of my son. He was diagnosed with autism and ADHD while we were living in Japan back in 2013. However, we face a lot of difficulty to find help and therapy opportunity for him in Tokyo, even though it's one of the largest metropolitan area in the world, but we can only find 2 therapy centers to take our son to in the entire Tokyo metro area. So we decided to move to United States in 2015, but only to find out the medical insurance in US is not the most friendly. A lot of you might recognize, and we are facing a very high medical bill with all the therapy that we need for our son. Like he requires 15 hours a week of therapy, $100 an hour, $6,000 a month if we want to do all the different type of therapy for him. That's why I started the toy business on the weekend as a weekend entrepreneur back in 2017. That's how I got into the toys and game industry myself. So, and over the year, obviously, I was able to grow the toy business, and I started the toy digital marketing companies back in 2022 as well, about 3 years ago. So that's just a quick background about myself and a few businesses that we operate. As far as digital marketing, we really focusing on 3 different principles. There is conversion optimization, profit optimization, which is the key of today's webinar, is how can we really optimize for profit at the current environment that we're facing as an industry. And obviously, we want to make sure we can still import product at a reasonable cost to still stay competitive and still keep our business running. Third is ongoing optimization that we also need to keep in mind. So those are the 3 major principles. Today's webinar, I'm going to start talking about some of the practical strategy you can consider to do today and to reduce your costs and to make sure your toys and game business can stay profitable in 2025. So the first strategy I want to mention is, for those of you that may or may not know, Amazon have a freight forwarding company as well called Amazon Global Logistics. And this is something we have done comparison like over the years with other freight forwarding companies that we have been working with. And usually Amazon have the best rate because of the amount of volume they are doing. So the way it works is, if you are already selling on Amazon, all you need to do is to sign up for Amazon Global Logistics, and you need to submit some document to the Amazon portal, then create your own Amazon Global Logistics account. After you create the account, you can get a quote from Amazon to see how much the international shipment is going to cost you. This is an excellent way to save costs, because typically we see like a 30% cheaper rate compared to other freight forwarder that we have used in the past. And also it is door to door, means if you're already selling on Amazon, or if you're planning on selling on Amazon, simply by using the Amazon Global Logistics like framework or using their program, they're going to pick up the product at your factory in China and ship it all the way to their warehouse in US as well. And Amazon have 2 different warehouse network system. One is, it's called FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon. It's their fulfillment network that you can fulfill product to the end consumer on the individual product level. And they have a second warehouse network. It's called AWD, Amazon Warehouse Distribution. That is designed to do bulk storage, and you can ship like container, you can ship pallet to AWD. And they have 2 different warehouse networks that you can utilize. And with Amazon Global Logistics, you can go to those warehouses as well. Directly, again, you can pick it up from China and go directly to one of their warehouses here in US. This is one way that you can consider to reduce your current freight cost to hopefully offset some of the tariff increase. Obviously, I think the latest news that we see that there's some talk that's between the US and China, the Chinese government right now, to potentially come out with a lower rate, but who knows? And every single day I turn on the news is different. What we can do that's within our control is consider different programs, consider different alternatives to reduce our supply chain related costs. And one of the ways that will be very beneficial for everyone that's running a toys and game business is to consider using a different freight forwarding companies that could be a lower freight and really cutting your freight costs, and also simplify your shipping processes. before we use Amazon Global Logistics for our own in toy company, we used to ship all the product to a third-party logistic warehouse here in Arizona, and then from the warehouse here in Arizona, we ship it into Amazon. That create more lead time, is a longer lead time, and since more people is touching the product, there's more warehouse in betweens. It also increase the cost. So by considering switching to using APL or Amazon Global Logistics, it's going to potentially save you on freight costs and also make your supply chain shorter and make your lead time shorter, especially for those of you that's already selling on Amazon. This is an excellent program to consider. And the next thing I already mentioned a little bit earlier is consider looking into using Amazon warehouse distribution. And this is something we already did a transition ourselves for our own in-house toy brand last year. But we used to have, like I mentioned earlier, we used to have a 3PL with third-party logistic warehouse here in Phoenix that we store all the product. But since last year, we have actually we already canceled the contract with our 3PL warehouse, and actually all of our product right now is being stored at AWD. So for any container that was shipping from China last year, we have been shipping directly to the AWD warehouse. And you can also compare the rate. You can just Google Amazon warehouse distribution. You'll see their latest rate. I believe they are currently charging about 42 per cubic foot per month. So you can do the calculation for your particular type of product and see how much potential storage fee that you can save by considering using Amazon's warehouse distribution compared to the current 3PL the third-party logistic warehouse that you're currently using. And the other benefit was using AWD is you can also replenish your FBA inventory from your AWD inventory. So this is another easy way to make sure your Amazon store have enough inventory, and you also reduce the amount of time for transferring. You can also set up automatic inventory transfer between the AWD warehouse and FBA warehouse, and you will also bypass some of the restock limit that you typically see if you're only storing in the FBA system. This tool program is something we use ourselves with our own toy company right now as well. And we have been seeing, this is something we implemented last year before this whole tariff situation even happened. So by utilizing those two programs together, this is a way that you can really reduce your supply chain costs and your overall storage costs for all your products that's related to Amazon. And you can still use the product to fulfill to retail order. So this is something I want to emphasize, because a lot of people think, oh, if I ship all the product to Amazon, what's going to happen to my retail store order? With AWD, you can fulfill order. It means you can fulfill retail store order as well from AWD warehouse. This is how it works. Every single product you ship to AWD is going to store in the manufacturer carton box. If you get one box of order, let's just say you have 50 units of your toys or games in a manufacturer box, and one of your retail store partner just order a box of item from the AWD warehouse, you can create shipment orders from the AWD warehouse and ship directly to your retail partner from AWD in the original manufacturing carton. This is something you cannot do with the FBA program, because with FBA program, their warehouse system for FBA is designed for fulfillment. And once they receive all your product, they'll open up the box and they'll put everything into bins. So usually we do not recommend to ship to your retail partner from FBA. So something to be aware of if you haven't used those two programs, or you're not so sure the difference between the two programs. For any retail order, you want to ship it out from AWD warehouse inventory. Any individual consumer order, like 1 unit, 2 unit, or in singles digit, you want to ship it out from your FBA or fulfilled by Amazon inventories. So that is a way that you can pretty much fulfill all your fulfillment and inventory needs by utilizing the Amazon's logistic program that they already spend billions of dollars on creating, especially within US and across. They also have house in Canada and other countries across the world. For smaller businesses like ourselves, it's an excellent way to just utilize the system, the logistic that Amazon already created, and we can use it for our own business. So those are the two programs that you can consider. So I see a question about what is the minimum amount of product you can have to use for Amazon warehouse and logistics. Actually, you can ship in as low as you want. There's no minimum amount. You can ship in 5 boxes if you want to start out and to test their program to make sure everything is working how you think. You don't have to ship in a container to begin with. You can ship in a much lower quantity. There's no minimum requirement. for the AWD warehouse. They usually just have a maximum requirement. They don't want you to ship too much, especially for FBA. FBA have a maximum requirement. Well, AWD, I believe there's not a lot of restriction on that. So all you need to do is to do the cost analysis calculation to see if by switching or at least transferring some of your existing inventory into AWD, is that going to be cheaper for you in the long run for storage or not? So that's a calculation, obviously, you need to do. And that's something that our team can also do the calculation for you if you're interested to have a scheduled call with us. We can walk you through the calculation and show you what the cost is going to look like with your current 3PL versus switching to using AWD's network. How much money it's going to save, what are some of the implications, and how is that flow look like on the business side? What does the process look like? If you're interested, just send me an email and we can set up a separate meeting, and I can walk you through the details and help you to do the analysis. And usually we do that kind of consultation for free as well. There's no fee involved. We want to do everything we can to help other small business owners within the industry to really come up with solution to really reduce the cost. Beside the Amazon part, there's also other strategy that you can also consider. And this is something that a lot of people has been talking about this online, is to diversify your manufacturing outside of China. Obviously, there's other like alternative you can consider, but this is not going to be easy because like even for our toy company, we have been so heavily relying on Chinese-based manufacturing. It is really hard to, of course, it takes time to find other supplier that can produce the type of toys that we have or the type of game that we have and still produce the same amount of qualities and also still have the capacity to produce a product. Some of the top alternatives you can consider, obviously, there's Vietnam, there's India, there's other like countries. I put in Mexico here, but Mexico is kind of tricky for toys and game brands. So far, I haven't had a lot of luck on finding good manufacturing company in Mexico in my personal experience. We are looking into some other supplier in Southeast Asia at this time, but nothing is really finalized yet because it does take some time to look and evaluate other manufacturing besides the current supplier that we currently are using. But this is another way to consider as far as diversifying some of your manufacturing outside of China to really help the situation with the upcoming tariff and a lot of the uncertainty that's currently happening right now. The fourth strategy you can also consider, this is going to be something that you can also really talk to your manufacturer about, is to consider optimize your packaging for freight efficiency. And this is something we have done with some of our toys and some different products. By redesigning the box, we can still ship the same product at a smaller like box. So what I mean by that is you can work with your supplier to see if you can redesign the box and still make sure the product can fit. And by doing that, you're going to lower your dimensional weight, and you can also put more unit into the same pallet, into the same box, and into the same container. This is another way that you can significantly reduce your overall shipping costs and also increase your container utilization. If you're only ordering container from China, even if you're just ordering in pallets, that was to help by. That's another way you can also do the calculation or talk to your current existing manufacturing partner to see if they can come up with a better packaging solution for your existing product. So it's going to take up a little bit less space. Another thing to consider is also to work with your manufacturing partner to see if they have other alternative for packaging. Maybe that's also some additional costs you can reduce by looking into other packaging options or even looking into other packaging dimension that will help with your overall like supply chain and your overall cost efficiency for your brand as well. And then the fifth strategy you can also consider is to simplify your product to cut costs without like sacrificing the customer experience. This is what I mean is you can consider using different kind of material for your current product. For example, for board companies, you can consider switching some of the material type you're using for some of your pieces inside your games from like switching from a custom plastic insert to maybe consider using a cardboard one, or you can by switching some of the material you're using inside your current product design. That's also a way to reduce your manufacturing costs and also just make your overall costs more efficient. And that's also something you can also like talk to your manufacturing partner about to see if there's any room for additional like cost reductions in the current like design to see if we can either use a different material or use different packaging and try to reduce costs. And again, the tariff is usually being imposed based on the invoice amount. So if you can reduce the cost of the goods, obviously the impact of the tariff is also going to be lower as well. So that will be another thing you can spend some time to talk to your current existing manufacturing partners to see how you can redesign or re-engineer your current bill of material for your particular product and see what are some of the cost saving potential there for your product going forward. And because just like us, the Chinese manufacturer and the Chinese factory is also suffering a lot in the current situation. A lot of them is not getting any order out. Like one of my factory I talked to, they have a lot of product that was supposed to ship or supposed to be, a lot of the US customer actually canceled their order last minute because of the tariff situation, or a lot of things just being put on hold. Like the production was being put on hold as a lot of the companies is waiting the situation to see where this tariff situation is going to turn out. So that means the factory also have a lot more room to negotiate with you because they still want to do business. They still need to survive as a company as well. So that's also something you can use this time as an opportunity to renegotiate with your current manufacturing partners. The next thing is this is going to be a critical, and this is going to be a very good time to renegotiate for better freight term. The most commonly used freight term is usually FOB, free on board, or EXW, export, or DDP, means deliver duty pay. The main difference between it is it depends on which trade term you are currently using. For example, for our own brand, we used to use EXW most of the time for our freight term, for our auctions. Means we pay our manufacturer for the cost of the goods, but everything, once the goods is finished at the factory, we will hire a different freight forwarder and pay the cost separately. Means the quote we're getting factory only include up to the point when the product is finished. Once the product is finished, it's up to in our hand to arrange for the pickup and arrange for the freight forwarder to do the customer clearing and also paying for the freight ourselves. What we're doing right now, however, is we're trying to renegotiate a different freight term. My recommendation is look into switching from EXW FOB to DDP. Means the supplier actually will handle the freight, the custom, the duty, the delivery. This will reduce some of your tariff exposure and also make your logistics a little bit simpler. And a lot of the costs, or at least some of the quote you'll be getting for DDP turn, a lot of them will be based on the weight of the product as well. Obviously, this is something you want to negotiate with your current supplier to see if they can offer a quote for you, but based on DDP turn instead of EXW or instead of FOB. So by doing this renegotiation, you might be able to save you quite a bit of cost. And also you want to make sure you ask, a pro tip here is ask for a quote under different terms. So give me a quote for the EXW turn. Give me another quote for the DDP turn and give me a quote for FOB. Then you can do a comparison to select the best options. But based on the current situation with the tariff, the recommended term that we are trying to negotiate right now, even with our own toy company, will be DP, will deliver duty pay. So that means the importer of duty will be your supplier instead of you, because they will be the one that will be arranging the final freight or the final leg in the supply chain to get the product from China or from your manufacturer countries into US. The latest quote I'm getting for DDP right now is about $2.60 per kilogram. And of course, this rate changes all the time. It depends on the latest freight market and based on a couple different factors. But that's a conversation worth having with your supplier, with your manufacturing partner to see if you can get a different quote for DDP and EXW. So this is it's also a good time to renegotiate the freight term with your current partners. The next thing is you can also take a look at the current HS code that you're currently classifying your product under. Obviously, you don't really know exactly is the new increase in tariff is applying to every single product or is it applying to certain type of product. There's still a lot of things that's still in the air. The current Trump administration is still, they're not really clear on that. They're trying to make exception for a few categories, and there might be some exception for semiconductor. They may not, but that's something you can also like use or talking to your current broker or your current freight partner to first understand what is the current term, your HS code that you have used in the past. What is the other code that might be also that you can also use that you can still classify your product under by like maybe considering switching or reclassifying your product under a different HS code that's still correct or still relevant. You might help you to reduce the duties. But of course, you want to make sure you're not misclassifying your product into a totally different categories. For example, some toys that's made of wood or educational use might fall like under a different tariff code. So that's something you can also look into to see. The suggestion here is to review some of your best seller that you have under your companies. Maybe review some of the top 5 best sellers you're having and to see what is the current HS code that you're using when you're importing the product. What are some of the alternatives that you can consider to reclass your product under that is still like that's still like following the rules and everything. So that by switching or reclassifying your product, that could also potentially have some implication to reduce the potential of tariff impact. So this is another strategy you can consider to review and to talk to your current freight partners about what are some of the alternatives, what is going to be the implications going forward by doing this kind of switches. And the next strategy, obviously, you can also negotiate for a better support. And a lot of the manufacturing partner we are negotiating in China, they still want our business. So how can we still like do business under the current environment? Maybe you can ask for a temporary discount, or you can ask them to see if you can be a win-win situation for them. Due to the rising tariff, I would like to explore a temporary adjustment to our pricing, maybe like a small discount or some kind of discount to still ensure we can still order from the factory. And this is time to have an open conversation with your manufacturers, either in China or in other country, to see if there's any other room for negotiation. And besides discount, you can also ask them to give you a better payment term, or you can also to see if they have any other alternative for you as far as like shipping partner, like I mentioned earlier, give you a different freight term. That's another way to also negotiate to see if they can provide you with a better quote under a different freight term. For example, I mentioned about DDP versus FOB and EXW. That's another way to really reduce your potential cost exposure under the current situation. And the common negotiation you can also do as part of, besides just asking for a discount from your manufacturer, is also negotiate for a better payment term. And this is going to be very important, very helpful, especially for your working capital within your business. The typical payment term for most of the manufacturing is usually they'll ask for 30% deposit and another 70% due when the production is finished. But what you can try to go back and renegotiate if you already pay for the 30% deposit is instead of paying 70% when the product is finished, some factory is open to, okay, to do a 30, you can do like a 30, 30, 40, means you do the 30% deposit, another 30% that's due when the product production is finished. Then the remaining that 40% is due when the product arrives in US. That could be a potential payment term. Or you can say like 30, 30, 40, but the 40 is not due until you clear the customer. So that's different negotiation that you can do with your manufacturer to have a more flexible payment term. So you are not paying the 70% as soon as the production is finished, which is like the common payment term. But by switching or negotiating for a more flexible payment term, that will also help you to reserve more working capital within your own businesses. And you can also use different like financing tool to do that calculation. And usually if you want to do that negotiation, I would suggest to come up with the financial projections and show that to your manufacturing partner and saying that by providing us with this new payment term, this is how much we can still order. If you don't give us this better payment term, we couldn't really continue with the new increase in tariff and with the pressure with the economies. How can we have a win-win situation where we can still order from you, but under a better payment term So we can still get a product over here in US and still provide to the US consumer, but we'll pay you the remaining 30 or 40% once the product is arrived. Sometimes you can even negotiate and say, I would like to pay final 30 or 40% once we start selling. That's something you can also negotiate with the supplier. And obviously that's going to be like a case by case scenario that you want to negotiate with your manufacturing partner to see how much of a wiggle room they are willing to give. But for them, having some business is better than no business. So this is a good timing to at least like starting that conversation to see what kind of term that you can bring to the table on each side, and hopefully reach a win-win situation where you can still get the product and they will still get an order, but they will just receive the money a little bit later. And that also help you still keep the business operating and still keep the business running while this whole situation is currently going on with the tariff. And then the last but not least is you also want to do a tariff impact assessment and the profitability audit for all the product that you currently have to see how much of a potential impact it's going to have. It depends on the product, and it depends on because we don't really know what the new like rate just is going to be yet. But you can also calculate, okay, if it's going to be at 50%, how much additional cost is going to have, how much erosion to your margin is going to be with the new rate increase, and versus how much margin you currently have. And you might want to consider either increasing some of your pricing for your product in the future, or to see if you want to sell through some of the inventory and see how much inventory you still have on hand here in US, and see how many days and how many months you still have as far as inventory goes before you completely sold out. So by doing that kind of analysis, it's going to help you to understand, okay, how much more months do we have? How much time do I have before I'm completely sold out of stock? And second is, if we are about to sell out of stock with the potential tariff increase, what is our margin is going to be going forward? So that is an assessment you want to do on the product by product level, and to see what is the impact, and if it still makes sense for you to consider or continuing the order with your manufacturing partners and still keep the product coming and still keep the business running as well. And like I mentioned earlier, this is something we are also trying to do a free assessment for the people we are talking to. So if you are interested for us to have a conversation to take a look at your current product, feel free to reach out to us. Visiting our website will send us an email. I would love to have a conversation with you and understand your current situation and see how we can help. And we can do a free assessment to see what your current margin is at, and see what are some of the strategy you can do as far as increasing or improving your margins. And also some of the supply chain, we'll also help you to do a current supply chain review to see what does your supply chain look like. Do you have a 3PL? Do you have a third-party logistics you are using? Have you considered switching or using other alternatives like the Amazon program I mentioned earlier? That's something we are also currently offering for free for the brand that we're currently talking to. With our free audit, we'll do like a SKU by SKU tariff impact, and also come up with a suggestion for a potential price adjustment. And we will also rank all your product for high risk and versus high margin. And we can do like a SKU by SKU analysis, see what you can do for your toy and game companies in the current situation, and give you like a next step recommendation to still protect your bottom line. And we'll be sharing more information here in the upcoming week about different strategies, besides some of the strategy we already mentioned on the webinars, and also talking about what is the step to set up like AWD or AGL or other programs that we mentioned in today's webinar as well. So I want to open the final part of today's webinar for Q&A. I want to ask is like, where is everyone manufacturing based out of? For us, like I mentioned, it's 100% based out of China. Is everyone is also, your manufacturing is also based in China, or is it based in different country? You just put it in the chat or let me know. I just want to see where is everyone currently manufacturing from. Okay, I see people is putting in China. China.
A Ward Trading Card Company here. We are actually lucky enough that we were able to get 100% USA made last year. So everything as far as the manufacturing and processing is done here. My question is, I found out that none of our actual like products, but like the raw material is by the tariffs, but it is such a small percentage. Is it you think we should sit down with our manufacturer and try and negotiate some kind of difference? Or because it's only, I think it's a 3-cent increase per product, is that something that really, would we be almost pushing the envelope too much?
Oh, that you are actually in a very unique situation since you have already a US-based manufacturing supply chain. And if the 3-cent increase, is that the number you got from your current manufacturing partner?
Yeah, that's directly from our manufacturer because we're going to be switching over. Because the other place we're using is also in the US. However, we want to have the boxes and the product itself be manufactured just out of the same place. But by going there, the raw material for their boxes is shipped from China. It's a 3-cent increase. So that's what I'm wondering, your professional opinion, is that something we should even bother bringing up to them? Or should we just go, you know, we're lucky enough to only have a 3-cent increase?
If it's only 3 cents, I wouldn't push too hard on that if it's only a 3 cents increase. Because for some of our product, we're seeing a lot higher than a 3-cent increase.
Okay. Like I said, it's the raw material. So whatever kind of pulp they use for the boxes, I believe.
I see. Yeah, but you are in a very good position right now. So your potential exposure is fairly low. So
We looked out.
thank you for sharing and asking the question. So thank you so much for everyone's time. And again, stay calm and hopefully we'll go through this together as an industry. I'll talk to everyone again next month for our next monthly webinar.
You've been listening to Toy Business Unboxed, hosted by Jason Hsieh. Thank you for joining us in exploring the fascinating world of toys and the ingenuity behind them. To stay updated with the latest episodes and continue your journey into the toy business, remember to subscribe and follow us. If you found today's episode insightful, please leave a rating and review and share this podcast with others who share your passion for toys. Until next time, stay curious and keep innovating.